My friend and I hung out together. We do this quite often, like teens do, most of the time. Usual things like pizza and beer and, of course, girls. My friend and I had this bright idea to go hunting for a few hours before darkness fell upon us. It gets real dark in the deep, dark, dense forest, especially at night, and especially eerie because of all the sounds nature makes around us. We decide to take my car, an old Metro. You might laugh, but it gets me from A to B. So we packed all our gear and our rifles in the boot and headed off to the forest to hunt small animals. On our way, I shouted out to Steve, "Stop! Stop! I saw!" I stopped quickly and said, "It doesn't matter, Steve. Keep going." I know that I had seen something. It looked like a big dog with greeny yellow eyes, leaning next to a large tree, standing on its back legs, not on all fours, like a normal dog or wolf would. It sent shivers down my spine, and it made me feel cold all over. I tried to wipe it from my overreacting mind, but couldn't, no matter how much I tried. I just couldn't. Steve turned to me and asked if I was okay. And I replied, "Yes, I'm fine." But he knew just by the look on my face. He knew something was troubling me. "What did you see?" Steve asked. "I think I saw a large dog or something. I can't be sure. But whatever it was huge and stood on its back legs. Like it was the norm. I think they call it bipedal. A creature that walks on all fours and on its hind legs. And its eyes were greeny yellow. It literally freaked me the hell out. I'm sure it was the shadows of the moon shining through the trees and bushes, or even the moonlight casting supernatural shadows of darkness and light through the forest." Steve then laughed. "I'm sure it was nothing. Besides, we both know you have a good imagination most of the time." I said quietly to myself under my breath that what I saw was terrifyingly real to me. And the worst thing about it, it's the same forest we're heading for, but at the other end, about 2 miles or so away. And I'm hoping neither of us bump into it whilst we're hunting. Hell no. We turned into the large car parking area, and Steve parked at the top and stopped the car and parked underneath a large row of hanging trees, and then turned the engine off. "Shh," Steve said in a whisper. "What's wrong?" I said, with a shudder. "Did you hear that? Wait, there it is again. Shh." I said that it's probably a dog and its owner, and the dog sounded like it found a rabbit or a squirrel that scrambled to the tree and started barking at it. "No," said Steve, "I don't think so. It wasn't a dog, and the noise sounded real close. Just keep a close eye on your surroundings and tread carefully." Steve's voice sounded raw and dry. "Come on." I shoved Steve gently on his shoulder to nudge him back into the real world. "Come on, Steve. Let's get our gear ready and go hunting, which is the real reason why we are both here, right? So come on, let's go." Steve agreed and grabbed my gear and passed it to me with my rifles and my sidearm. grabbing his at the same time, and we were both ready to go. "Here we come, ready or not," Steve laughed. He started walking towards the muddy stoned path towards the first part of the deep, dark and eerie forest. We both entered with caution, looking towards each other, probably thinking the same thing, or so it seemed. "Are you okay, Steve?" "Yeah, I'm fine. This place just gives me the creeps. It feels so eerie and quiet for such a large wooded area. I mean, don't you think or feel like you're being watched, or even being followed?" "Nah, not really," I said. "I don't really want to fill my head with lots of weird, creepy stuff such as monsters and shadows and things that go bump in the forest, if you get my meaning." "Shh, there's that sound again," Steve whispered quietly. "I think I heard it this time. Shh, let me listen again." "There it is, again," Steve screeched. "What the hell is that?" I asked. "Do you want to keep going?" "Yeah, sure, I'm sure. It's nothing to worry about, is it?" "I don't know," I replied. "Let's go find out. Are you with me or not?" "I'm game," said Steve, with a shaky voice. "Let's do it." "Okay," I replied. "Let's go." We both crept into the dark, dense forest, almost on all fours, like an animal would, taking one step slowly at a time, steady as we go, not to break any branches beneath us or our feet, so we wouldn't scare any of the animals in our path or nearby, like deer, bear, or rabbit perhaps. Suddenly I heard a guttural, low, deep growl. It sounded uncomfortably close to us. I daren't look back. Steve heard it. I could tell by the look on his face. We stood closer together and hid ourselves lying down behind a giant fallen tree that lay on the muddy forest floor, surrounded by grass, moss, mud and stone. It was uncomfortable lying here, but we both felt a little more safe from whatever was making that horrified sound. I could hear the deep, thudding, echoed footsteps the creature was obviously making. My heart was pounding deep within my chest. It felt like it was going to explode at any moment. I felt sick. As I looked up to see the whereabouts of this creature, suddenly there it was in full form, raising its head and sniffing at the fresh air, like it was trying to find something, an animal perhaps, or worse, to that effect, us. It quickly moved its head in our direction, and I quickly ducked back down, terrified it saw us. The footsteps sounded like they were getting closer to where Steve and I were hiding. Then came that deep, dark, sniffing, guttural sound again, but this time I knew it was closer, because when I say closer, I really mean I could smell it, see it, feel it. It clawed its human-like hands and then grabbed the giant tree Steve and I were hiding behind, and deeply clawed at the wet bark which covered the tree. If it wanted to, it would easily tear us both apart, as easy as a knife through butter. But weirdly, it just stood there on two legs, sniffing the air. Surely it knew Steve and I was right underneath him. The creature slowly turned around and walked away. I waited and waited until I knew deep down in my pounding heart that the creature had gone. I nudged Steve and told him, "I think it's gone," and that we should both head back to the car and get the hell out of Dodge. We could still see the creature in the distance, not too far away from us, about 300 yards, which was close enough and far away enough, if you know what I mean. As Steve and I walked softly and slowly, trying not to make a single sound, the creature swiftly turned its wolf-like head in our direction and headed straight for us, growling, snarling and howling as it got closer and closer. Steve and I ran like the wind. In fact, we ran for our very lives, as you could obviously imagine. I heard a yelp, looked back, and Steve had tripped and fell to the ground. "Come on, Steve," I said, "let's go." "Leave me," said Steve. "Just leave me and go. Save yourself. Go." "I'm not leaving you here, Steve. So come on, get up, get your ass in gear, and let's go. I'll carry you if I have to the rest of the way. Now come on, put your arm around my shoulder, and let's get out of here before this thing catches up. And believe me, Steve, it's getting closer the longer we sit here." We could see the car ahead of us. It was a pretty sight, considering the ordeal we were both going through. "Get in, Steve. I'll drive." We shoved our gear in the back of the seats, got in and started the engine. Suddenly, the creature was standing in front of us. I quickly turned the headlights on, put them on high beam, and believe me, when I say this thing was huge, it was huge. And I could now identify it as a werewolf. I've never seen a werewolf before. I never even knew they existed until now. I couldn't believe my eyes. But there it was, standing there in full form, in the darkness and the shine of the moon, staring at us with those glowing eyes. Suddenly there was another howling sound coming from another one of those creatures. The werewolf creature sniffed the air, turned around and leapt away on all fours, snarling and growling and howling loud. At that point, Steve and I sped out, through the car park, out the car park, as fast as we could, and never looked